Hey, what's good, everyone? You got Mind Circus here with you, and today we are going to talk a little bit about World versus World Scrapper. But before we do, if you are new to Guild Wars 2,
Wait a minute. No meme intro?
I just figured we were doing something a little different here, and
So World versus World players aren't worth proper intro like PvE players are?
that's totally not what I said.
Are you sure you don't work for ArenaNet? Because this sounds a whole lot like legendary armor without a legendary skin.
Alright, fine, here we go.
Every day, soldiers feel the fire of the enemy. And every day, in some part of that battleground, the wounded feel the security of survival at the hands of a medic. The cry for medic is a call of confidence. The surety that survival is still within reach. For you, the responsibility will be great, because you may be the margin between life and death. Without you, a wounded man may not survive.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Can I roll the title sequence now?
Ain't no one got time for that, mind.
What's up, everyone? You got Mind Circus here with you, and today we are going to be talking about World versus World Support Scrapper. But before we get started, if you are new to Guild Wars 2, new to the channel, just haven't done so yet, I am currently farming likes and subscribes in an effort to build the channel, and if you want to hook me up with one of those just below the video, that would be amazing. So, Support Scrapper for World vs. World is something I have been enjoying for a fairly long time. I was playing Scrapper in World vs. World before it was cool, and when they put purity of purpose in, I think that's really when Support Scrapper became a really big deal. But instead of the usual and me going over the traits and how to play it, etc., I thought I'd pull in a ringer on this one, and I would bring in the best damn support scrapper on J Quarry, Caddy Wampus, aka Bliss Kincaid. Say hi, Caddy.
Hello, hello.
Hello. So, before we actually get into it, Caddy, we'll be rolling some footage down below here. We'll be talking a little bit about you. The first question, though, that I have is, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with the game, and more specifically about your history with World versus World?
Oh, well, do you remember you brought me into this game? I've never played an MMO before this, and you brought me into World versus World, and the first time I stepped in, I think I lasted 0.3 seconds before somebody sent me back to spawn.
Well, that would be about the usual lifespan for the initial World versus World player. Absolutely. So I'm going to be rolling a little bit of footage under this, but I think the most important thing I want to talk about before we get into any more details is I'm going to expose you. You, Caddy, are in fact a skill clicker.
Oh, I totally am. I am a skill clicker.
So I think I wanted to point this out for a pretty important reason. You actually told me a little story, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, about a number of people in your usual World versus World squad who are skill clickers indeed. Is this correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So the reason I wanted to point this out before we go on is I wanted to kind of put this out to the people that are maybe watching the video that, you know, playing this game at a really high level, which I actually believe you do, Caddy, particularly in World versus World, is a personal thing that does not rely on keybinds, etc. That with a little bit of hustle, anyone can, you know, really, I think, perform at a level over and above the expectations. Is that something you think you would agree with on that one?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that.
Your history with the game is you had never played another MMO. I dragged you into this one. We ended up in World versus World. What is it you specifically enjoy about World versus World?
You know, I like playing with the large groups of people that work together. I'm not much of a roamer. You've roamed with me before. It's pretty horrifying. But in a large group, it's a lot of fun to be in comms, to talk, to listen to everybody, and to just be there.
So some of it's social, some of it is, a team effort kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, exactly. And I happen to like to be in the group that beats the group that's 10 people more than us.
That I think is really something that I will point out. If you have never really got into World versus World, there is a certain satisfaction that comes with beating larger groups than the one that you are rolling with. I think that is really something specific to point out. Why Scrapper?
Well, I started on Reaper. I was terrible at it, and everybody on map chat was always calling for, "Oh, we're looking for a heel scrapper, heel scrapper, heel scrapper." And I gave it a shot, and it turned out that with the armor and everything that you use, I could last a little longer than 0.3 seconds.
And that's a good thing to point out, particularly for those people who are looking to maybe break into World versus World, who haven't played a whole lot of it in the past. I think it's important to point out that playing it as support and proper support, you don't just show up there in some supporty gear and think you're going to do it, but going in and gearing and putting yourself into that position and really going as support will offer you the option, obviously, to not only bring value to your team, but does help stay alive a little bit. That minstrel's gear is pretty sweet. What do you think is the main role of Scrapper in World versus World?
The main role would be to cleanse conditions, to spread the heal through the group, especially if your guardians in your group aren't providing enough heal. We throw a little bit of super speed, a little bit of quickness.
And let's not forget the stealth.
And yes, we can we can stealth groups of people.
All right. What do you think is the biggest downside to playing Scrapper in World versus World?
There's no loot, man. I get no loot bags. Don't forget to tip your scrapper, tip your guardian.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. We'll talk about it a little bit in the build section because I may do a selfish thing or two to get my bags. I'm not going to front about that. I don't think it's really problematic that I will take a selfish trade or two just to make sure that I'm getting in the hits to get a few bags, because World versus World may not be the most rewarding game mode. So with all that said, hey, let us get into the build and gear of this, and then you and I are going to take a look at how to play support Scrapper in World versus World. All right, so build and gear. I am going to pull this up, and I have this built more or less than like you do, though I think there may be some sigils that I may or may not have, but we'll pull that up in a couple of seconds. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my hero panel here. We are going to bring up my gear, and I have built this more or less like you, and I am running full minstrel's gear. Full minstrel's gear is correct, is that right?
Yes.
All right. So the minstrel's gear, for those of you guys who may not know, not always the best choice in PvE, but in World versus World, particularly as a support class, I'm going to run this over most of the alternatives. This is a toughness and healing power major with a vitality and concentration power minor. The concentration boon duration is something that will become really important as we're taking a look at the build itself. So as you can see in here at this point, I am running Monk Runes. Monk Runes are a healing and boon duration set. For those of you who don't feel like popping into, say, PvE land and running the Ascalon Catacombs dungeon, which is where you're going to actually find these, the Monk Runes can actually be found in the Ascalon Catacombs reward track for World versus World, or SPVP if that's something you enjoy. Caddy, to get your input on this, there are a couple of other rune options. Do you want to go over what those might be?
You can use the superior runes of Nature's Bounty. They give the healing, they give you minus 5% condition duration, and then your extra bottom one would be the incoming condition duration, cleanse a condition from nearby allies when using a heal skill.
Off that one, we're talking about a little bit of bump in your cleanse potential, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Nature's Bounty, if we want a little bit more cleanse, what would be another option?
Another option would be Superior Runes of the Water, which is again healing plus your boon duration, and your little extra will remove a condition from you after using a healing skill from you and your nearby allies.
And I think that one of the important things to point out about the water runes is that those water runes are significantly cheaper and easier to get than just about any of the other options that we'll be talking about. The last one I've heard of use is Zephyrite runes. Is that something that you've used?
Zephyrite runes, I have kind of a meme build that mine you really helped with to run yaks back and forth. That's going to give, the celestial kind of boost to your stats, the +8, the +10, +12 to all stats, and then it's going to make your super speed last 33% longer.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, Super Speed about a week and a half ago took a bit of a nerf, did it not?
Oh, did it? What an awful thing ArenaNet has done to Scrapper. All the things you could have changed, that's what they took away.
Wow, the salt is real.
Oh, you don't even know. I don't even want to play with yaks anymore.
Oh, well, I'm sure the yaks are really upset. Going into the weapons here at this point, I think that we'll have a bit of a conversation on this. We are running, in fact, pistol and shield. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in your pistol, what sigil are you running?
I have a Sigil of Cleansing.
And in your shield?
I have the Sigil of Transference.
Okay, so a little different than the weapons that you may be seeing on your screen right now, where I have an energy and a concentration sigil. I would absolutely urge you to go with Caddy's solution because she's better at it than I am, which I think is important to point out. The question that we're going to get is, can I use hammer?
Yes, you can use hammer. It's a little harder to blast a field with a hammer, but it does have that hammer 5 stun, which is so much fun.
So that really, if I'm not mistaken, is the reason that we get back to running the shield on this one, and that the shield's got the blast finisher, where we can easily do things like blast water fields or specifically smoke fields when we're blasting the stealth gyro. Is that right?
That is correct. And it also, because you can blast with something else, but the other team can hear it. When you use your shield 4, nobody hears it.
Wow, pro tips from the absolute pros on that one. I had no idea about that. That's fantastic. So I'll be honest with you all about my experience with this. I would not run the hammer on this. I would absolutely be running pistol shields. Pistol being largely a meme. I think we get a little bit of CC. Yeah, we get some confusion and some blindness. And blindness is okay, maybe not a big deal when it comes to Zerg play, because it does kind of disappear. The benefit from the condition disappears pretty quickly. So we don't get a ton off the pistol on this, but the shield is its main use. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let us go over and let us take a look at the build here at this point. So under the build, we will be running Inventions, we will be running Alchemy, we will be running Scrapper. Under Inventions, we will be running Overshield, Shield Skills, Game Reduced Recharge. This gets back to what we were talking about, blasting the fields. We'll look at that in the gameplay section. We will be running Soothing Detonation, heal nearby allies when using a tool belt skill. This obviously is huge value to us. We'll go over a little bit about what the tool belt skills do in the gameplay section. We'll be using Medical Dispersion Field. A percentage of healing you apply to yourself is shared with nearby allies. This obviously just a nice little healing bump. Taking a next little jump here, we'll look down at Alchemy. Alchemy will get health insurance, increase your incoming healing effectiveness, gain increased healing to others while using a med kit. The med kit will see huge use in this, and we'll go over them in the gameplay section. We'll be using a Comeback Cure, grant regeneration when you remove a condition from an ally. Comeback cure, a really big, nice little bump. Regen, as I have pointed out, not only in World versus World, but in PvE, one of those underrated boons that I think is a bigger value than a lot of people recognize. And finally, purity of purpose. When you would clear or cleanse a condition from an ally, convert it into a boon instead. It does have a cooldown on this, but this is condition conversion rather than just cleansing. This is of huge value to people, despite the cooldown that just keeps getting increased and increased by our good friends at ArenaNet. Let's go down and take a look at Scrapper. Scrapper, our first trait is going to be gyroscopic acceleration. Well abilities have an increased area of effect and grant super speed to nearby allies on their final pulse. So we get super speed here off our gyros. We are using 3 gyros on this build. Absolutely big win and easily better than any of the other solutions on this. We'll be using Damage Dampener. A percentage of all strike damage you take is delivered after a delay. Caddy, is there a reason we take this trait?
The other two they don't fit.
All right. So the other two really. Finally, kinetic accelerator, gain concentration based on your power. When you grant super speed to a target, also grant quickness. This is huge group benefit because as we look back here, our gyros are going to be giving super speed. This trait will obviously go in and change to giving us quickness as well at that point. So when we're looking at that, Caddy, are there any traits in here that you would swap out situationally, or do you just kind of roll with this at all times?
I usually kind of roll with this mostly. This whole thing with the kinetic accelerators changed when they added the quickness. We used to run the adaptive armor, but then we had to change it.
So adaptive armor, barriers you receive are stronger, reduce incoming condition damage while you have barrier. This is a good trait for self-sustain. However, when we look at kinetic accelerators and the change that they put in on this is actually going to give group benefit. So on a build like this that is 100% selfless, we would definitely take a trait like that. So that is build and that is gear. I would hate to cheat our fans out there out of a fashion break. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so fashion on this one, I'm going to call it and you can correct me where I'm wrong. We will start with your headpiece, which is the ferocious cat ears, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay. The runic hunter's shoulders, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. That would be the Requiem armor, if I'm not mistaken.
That is.
Okay. Those are the holographic dragon's gloves. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
You're impressed right now. I know you are.
I am.
So, just to step in, I'm going to roll it back. The ferocious cat ears are a piece of gem store equipment. The runic hunter's shoulders are found by doing strikes in the Ice Bruise saga and saving your currencies there. There's a small chance that you get the piece that can actually trade in for those, dropping from any given strike. The Requiem armor is made in Jahai Bluffs, or you get the ability to start making that in Jahai Bluffs, so that would be another option here. Holographic dragon gloves will be found during Dragon Bash, if I am not mistaken, Caddy?
Yes.
All right. The boots. These boots are the standard Ascended skin, if I am not mistaken, so making Ascended armor would get you these boots, is that correct?
The illustrious Striders?
The illustrious Striders. There we have it. Finally, there is the one piece that we have seen so far that I cannot pick out, and that is your pants. I will take a wild guess and tell you that these are the Rubicon leggings. Is that correct?
No, these are the glorious laggards.
Wow, you did some PvP.
I did. It was the one piece I really wanted was those leggings.
So there you have it. ArenaNet, you can always gate cosmetics behind PvP to get us to go in. Let's pull out the weapons. If I am not mistaken, your shield is the Eternal Ocean Shield.
No, that is the Abyss Stalker shield.
So that's the Abyss Stalker Shield. The Abyss Stalker Shield would be one of the newer gem store sets from Blackline Keys. And if I am not mistaken, your pistol there is Quip. Is that right?
Yes, it is. The troll weapon.
The best, well, the second best troll weapon in the game. Let's be clear about that. And on your hammer, you can show it off. Let's see the hammer.
Oh, my hammer.
There it is. You are currently running a Juggernaut as your hammer. That was the first legendary you made, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Fantastic. As for dyes,
there's only 2 dyes being used. The blue is Core Ice, and the lighter blue is Pastel Blue.
Wow. You just made that totally easy.
Yeah.
All right. So with that said, let's take a couple of seconds and let's go over how this plays. So before we get into the gameplay on this one, let us take a look at the bar. I am of the opinion, Caddy will fight me on this, I know, that all but one of these are non-negotiable. Let's go over them one by one. First is the Med Kit, which I believe to be non-negotiable. The Med Kit is one of those kits for Engineer. If you don't want to play with kits, I would highly recommend you avoid this build. We will be running the Elixir Gun. The Elixir Gun, another kit, again, of huge value. Caddy and I will go over the gameplay on this in a few seconds. Caddy here is running the Bulwark Gyro. Why are we running the Bulwark Gyro?
Because sometimes my Guardian doesn't give me the stab that I need.
Wow.
And it's projectile hate.
It is projectile hate on the tool belt. Somewhere out there, there's a Guardian that's getting super sad right now. But there you go, Bulwark Gyro. Me personally, this is going to be where I will change things out, and I will actually run the Shredder Gyro in here. Why will I run the Shredder Gyro? That it will be how I get my bags. It's that simple. When I'm going through on an engage, I will absolutely pop that Shredder Gyro. I will get enough hits that I can probably get a decent amount of bags. I will, however, be sacrificing the defense field. Caddy pointed out is that we are getting 10 seconds of 3 stacks of stab on that. So play it out how you want. I will go with the Shredder on this one just to get my bags. Purge Gyro, absolutely non-negotiable. This is a condition remover. And finally, we will be running the Sneak Gyro. So there we have it. So, Caddy, when we are getting ready to go into an engagement, how are we going to play this?
The first thing we're going to do is when they're going to ask to empower, we're going to stop at our med kit. And we're going to use our Medkit 5, which is the infusion bomb, to drop right on our group.
And we're going to do that because that's giving us regen, vigor, and swiftness. And this is a not insignificant amount of this when run in the Minstrel's gear. And I may be getting a little bit bump bigger than Caddy because of my concentration sigil. The amount of boons that we're getting off that little blast is not insignificant. What's our next step going to be?
The next step is going to be, sometimes the group is going to stealth. My suggestion is if you know you're going to stealth, you pretty much know your group. If you're going to stealth, don't use your Medkit 5, because that blast sound can be heard by the other team.
All right, so again, we are talking about pro tips from the pros here. So in my case, what I'm going to do here, and Caddy can correct me if I'm wrong, when we are getting ready to engage on our enemy, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to pop the Sneak Gyro, and then I'm going to blast this. Is that correct?
You are. You're going to blast it with Shield 4.
There we go. This will give us a not insignificant amount of stealth. If you see, that is a pretty scary amount of stealth that also blends out. Little pro tip for those of you who might be commanders in World versus World. Calling for stealth when you can't get stealth on everybody, not always the best idea, as Caddy and I know. So do keep that in mind that, stealth is only going to go out to, I believe, 5 people. Is that right, Caddy?
Yes.
Okay. And another pro tip for those of you who may be getting into World versus World, hide your minis. And I guess Mechanist, the mech doesn't stealth. Are there any other things that don't stealth other than that?
No, that's about it.
Okay. So keep in mind, guys, your minis, your mechs, and I believe that when we're calculating targets on this, a ranger pet might actually count. So if you're a ranger, you might obviously be favoring Soul Beast under this, or probably not in a Zerg in the first place. You'd probably be better off roaming. So that is, one of the big benefits. Again, as we were talking about, what we will do is we will hit our sneak gyro, and then we will blast it on the 4. That will get a significant amount of area stealth out to people. So once we've done that, and we are getting into the middle of combat, Caddy, what is our next step going to be?
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my med kit, and I'm going to hit med kit 4.
Medkit 4, Vital Burst. Unleash a cascade of concentrated healing vapors around you.
Because as soon as you get in, you're going to hit a bomb in the face, usually.
See, there we go. This is why I'm calling you in on this, because that would absolutely not be my first guess on that one. So where are we going after that?
After that, we're gonna hit Medkit 3.
Medkit
and that's
3.
Gonna clear any conditions that you have received.
Release purifying vapors to cleanse conditions from allies near you at each interval. That is a really nice big water field. That is a huge, huge value, particularly in terms of Conti cleanse, because really what we're talking about there is 4 pulses, conditions removed per pulse is 1. So we're talking about 4 conditions that could technically be taken off that over a 4-second period. And as I just mentioned, that is also indeed a really nice little water field. Where are we going from there, Caddy?
From there, I'm going to hop out of my med kit, and I'm going to go to my Purge Gyro.
Purge
and
Gyro.
I'm going to blast that with my Shield 4.
So let's take a look at that. Purge Gyro. Deploy a Purge Gyro to remove conditions from you and nearby allies. Conditions removed 1, 5 pulses. So again, we're talking about 5 conditions removed per target. Over that, we're also talking about a light field. And a light field, which when we put that down and pulse that, is going to do even more area cleanse because we are popping that field. This is why I brought Caddy along, guys. For those of you guys who aren't, who are wondering, that's not something that would have occurred to me off the top of my head. Where are we going after that?
After that, I'm going to go into my Elixir gun.
All right.
Okay. And I'm going to use my Elixir 5.
Elixir 5. So Elixir 5, which is Super Elixir, launch an Elixir orb, healing allies on impact and creating an area of continual healing. So let's drop that down, take a look at that. Pretty self-explanatory. That's also a light combo field, which very much like the Purge Gyro, if we were to quickly swap out and blast. No? Oh, wow.
What you do is, if you drop your 5, you can use your 4, but watch where you are, because if you use your 4, you launch backwards. But that will blast that field without leaving that kit.
So we're not actually going to, we're not actually going to blast that with our shield. The 4, if we take a look at this, is a blast finisher, but as Caddy is noting, this is going to send us back. So what I will do is demonstrate that by hitting the 5 and then the 4. And there's another little area condition. Now, I know what our next step is on this one, because now, technically, hopefully, we are behind most of our group after doing that little combo. Probably going to fire the elixir gun with the fumigate on that. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. So
Might as well
again,
fumigate the people in front of you.
exactly. So as we're moving in to catch up after that bounce step, we will hit the fumigate, and the fumigate is another massive Condi removal tool. So again, I'm just going to walk through this little combo for those of you who may be struggling with it. We'll hit that, we'll go back, we should be behind our team, we'll hit fumigate as we're coming back in, and we are clearing a number of conditions. You see, this is why your arc numbers are so high, Caddy, right here.
Yeah, everybody's gonna know.
Well, the more you know, the more you get a chance to play another class.
Very true.
Okay, so where are we going after that? What would be our next step?
After that, I'm gonna go back to my purge gyro. Because by that time my cooldowns will be ready, and I can purge gyro and blast that with the shield and start my rotation over again.
So that is actually not as complicated a rotation as I thought it might be. I'm just going to wait for my cooldown to come back here in a couple of seconds, and we'll see if I get this right. I'm just going to go over this again for people. So we will start here. We will pop into our elixir gun. We'll drop the super elixir, the acid bomb, come back in with the fumigate, then go in here into the purge gyro. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Let's go over a couple of the other things before we put a cap on this. There are a couple of things that I probably think we should put out. Healing Mist, which is your tool belt skill on the 2, obviously going to be venting a large healing mist in front of us. That is really nice. It's important, I think, for people not to understand or not to misrepresent the value of function gyro. Caddy, what is the value of function gyro?
It is the best tool out of everything on here. That is a super speed.
Right.
That is a down killer. And that is a reser of your own people.
So for those of you who may not be used to using function gyro, those of you who may be PvE mains or etc., this is in this little field. Any players who are downed will get completely finished. It will help finish. Any players who are on your team that are downed will actually start to res. In addition, we're going to get a super speed bump off that. So that is huge value, particularly I think, and I will call out a lot of the gameplay in World versus World among pugs, etc. Maybe not in the organized teams that Caddy is used to playing with, but in pugs, I think one of the big things is managing downstate, which I don't think is done correctly by pugs very well. This is a really, really big tool for that. Caddy, let's talk about the med kit for a moment. Now, with the med kit, what are our big wins on this?
The big wins, of course, 3.
Okay, so 3. What is 3? Release purifying vapors to cleanse conditions around. So this is just an area cleanse.
Right. I use that a lot. I use the 2 a lot.
The 2, which is fire bandages in front of you, so the raw healing power, which is not something that we've really touched on here, but the raw healing power of this spec is really, really high, absolutely. Where else might we go on this?
And the 4.
Okay, so the 4 unleashes the cascade of concentrating healing vapors around you. I think one of the important things to recognize about this as well is that the 5 is a blast finisher, okay, and we do get a combo field off the 3. Do you ever use that combo?
No.
Okay.
Almost never.
All right, so that is actually one that I use, and use it. Yeah, it is situationally here. What you'll do is you'll just hit the 3, and then blast that with the 5, and that is some extra area healing on that one. So
let's try that tomorrow night.
Yeah, see, even a stop clock keeps the right time twice a day. But that is one of the combos that I use. I will touch on one other combo that I use, and I will touch on this because, again, I will use the Shredder at points, and it's important to know that the Shredder is also a whirl finisher, so when we are talking about things like a water field, we can proc the Shredder gyro. Healing, whirl finisher is not always the biggest value, but I find that particularly if you are rolling with groups that are competent enough to keep tight, and Caddy being a good example, the group that she rolls with is pretty well practiced on keeping tight. That the world finishers actually do become a little bit more value. So some of the things that I might do when it comes to proccing the Shredder gyro are things like throwing down spare capacitor, and then putting the brutal bolts in there. And again, we're just talking about me selfishly getting bags at that point until such time as we see the rework where we have been promised that support scrappers in specific will probably see a little bit of a increase on the treasure earned in this game mode, which kind of sucks. Caddy, is there anything else you touch on before we put a cap on this?
You could say, if you're stuck and you're waiting for all your cooldowns, always go into medkit and press medkit 1.
Medkit 1 and just press 1. And
press 1 for love.
Press 1 for love. Medic. Caddy, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to at this point?
No, there is no one.
Oh. Not even the Guardian that you buried earlier, or?
No, he knows who he is.
Okay.
And he'll have expected that comment.
All right. I'm going to thank you guys all very much for watching. I am going to remind you to have fun in game and min-max your real life. And hey guys, go out and play some World vs. World. It's really not that scary, and it's some of the most fun you'll have in game. I am glad we took this moment, and we'll talk to you next time. If you are new to Guild Wars 2, new to the channel, just haven't done so yet.
Wait a minute. No meme intro?
Why would you do that? This is the actual intro.
I'm sorry. Alright, I'll wait. I thought I was interrupting you.
Yeah, no, this is the actual intro. Which, I mean, do you want to tell everybody to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel?
No.